I'm Sharon. My world was simple, revolving around my 9-year-old daughter, Lily, my husband, Marco, and my part-time job. Working part-time was not a choice, but a necessity because Lily fell sick often, so someone had to be there for her. Marco was committed to his job and worked hard, ensuring our financial stability. "Mom, can I have some juice?" Lily's tiny voice was always filled with curiosity and innocence. "Sure, sweetie. Here you go," I replied, handing her a glass with a loving smile. Marco and I barely had time for each other. Our conversations were mostly filled with routine check-ins and updates about Lily. "How was Lily today?" he would ask every evening, his voice heavy with concern and fatigue. "She's fine. A bit tired, but fine," I would respond, trying to keep the worry out of my voice. It was during one of these mundane days that I started feeling unwell. My stomach was in constant turmoil. Soon, I was admitted to the hospital, leaving Lily under Marco's care. Work was something I had to leave behind, and it was a challenge to juggle everything. "Marco, please make sure Lily has her meals on time and don't forget her medication," I reminded him every day, pain evident in my eyes. "I will, Sharon. Focus on getting better," Marco would reassure me, his eyes meeting mine for a brief moment before leaving the room. With me in the hospital, the responsibility of dropping and picking up Lily from school fell on my friend Iris. Iris was my confidant, someone I had known for years. She did not work and had a lot of free time, so she happily agreed to help us out. "Iris, thank you so much for doing this." I expressed my gratitude daily. "Oh, it's no trouble at all, Sharon. We're friends, aren't we?" Iris would reply with a casual wave of her hand. Iris brought Lily to the hospital every day after school, and for that, I was thankful. However, something was off. I could sense it in Iris's hurried visits and in her restless, absent-minded conversations. "Is everything okay, Iris?" I asked her one day, her nervous energy filling the room. "Oh yes, just some things on my mind." She brushed it off with a nervous laugh. And then there was Marco. His visits became less frequent, our conversations brief and superficial. "I'm just caught up with work and Lily," he would say whenever I asked him about his infrequent visits. I wanted to believe him, but something didn't sit right. Lily, my source of joy, also seemed different. She was quieter, her bright eyes losing their sparkle. "How was school today, Lily?" I would ask her every day, hoping to break her silence. "It was fine," she would reply with a small, forced smile. The serene strings of our life were starting to feel strained. My family, my friend, the people who were my pillars were changing, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was very, very wrong. The days were rolling by with a certain monotony, and I was growing more uneasy with each passing moment. I felt like a spectator in my own life, watching the unsettling changes in the people I loved. Every visit from Iris was marked by an unsettling silence, her usually lively demeanor replaced by a pensive, distant one. "Iris, you've been acting so strange lately. What's going on?" I finally asked her, unable to keep the worry out of my voice. I have some stuff to deal with, Sharon. Nothing for you to worry about," Iris replied, avoiding my gaze. "Is it something serious?" I pressed on, eager to help my friend. "Sharon, really, it's nothing. Focus on getting better." She brushed me off, changing the subject hastily. Marco was a whole different story. He would walk in with a forced smile, updating me on Lily and his work, all the while avoiding eye contact. It was as if he was carrying a heavy burden, one that he was unwilling to share. "Marco, is everything okay at home?" I asked him, the concern clear in my voice. "Everything is fine, Sharon. Just work is a bit stressful," he replied, his gaze fixed on the floor. "And Lily, is she okay? She's been so quiet lately," I prodded, my worry for Lily overpowering everything else. "She's just missing you," he responded, his voice flat. I tried talking to Lily too, to understand what was going on in her little mind. Every day, I would ask her about her day, about school, about her dad, and Iris. Her responses were always monosyllabic, her eyes never meeting mine. "Lily, sweetheart, is something bothering you? You can tell me anything, you know that, right?" I coaxed her gently. "I know, Mom, I'm just sad," she mumbled, playing with her fingers. Sad about what, sweetheart? Is it because I'm here in the hospital? I asked, my heart aching to see her so distraught. It's just, I don't like it when... She trailed off, tears brimming in her eyes. The unsettling silence was taking a toll on me. I felt helpless, confined to the hospital bed, unable to comfort my daughter, unable to help my friend, unable to confront my husband. One day, after another visit filled with silent glances and whispered secrets, I decided to question Lily a bit more. It was clear that something was bothering her, something more than just my hospitalization. Lily, you know you can tell me anything, right? I gently nudged as I held her little hands in mine. I know, Mom, she mumbled, her eyes filled with a secret pain. What's going on, sweetheart? Are Dad and Iris treating you well? I asked, my worry creeping into my voice. It's just... I see things, Mom, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. What things, Lily? What have you seen? I urged her, my heartbeat quickening. I have videos, Mom, of Dad and Iris. They laugh a lot. They look happy, she confessed, her eyes filling with tears. Videos? What do you mean, Lily? I asked, my heart sinking. She hesitantly handed over her little tablet, her hands shaking. What I saw on that screen broke my heart into a million pieces. It was Marco and Iris, laughing, sharing private jokes, looking like a couple. The pain was unbearable, the betrayal cutting deep. I'm so sorry, Mom. I didn't know what to do, Lily sobbed, clinging to me. Oh, Lily, this isn't your fault, sweetheart, I comforted her, my own tears falling freely. But the pain didn't stop there. Lily, with her innocent eyes clouded with tears, told me more. She had seen Iris coming out of our bedroom more than once. It was like a dagger to my heart, each word from Lily's mouth twisting it deeper and deeper. She comes out of your room, Mom. I've seen her. Dad says they are just talking, but I know it's wrong, Lily revealed, her voice breaking. Oh, Lily, was all I could muster, the pain in my chest making it hard to breathe. My mind was racing, thoughts of confrontation, of revenge, of escape filling every crevice. How did things come to this? How did my serene, simple life turn into this twisted, painful mess? The air was heavy with tension when Iris came back. I was burning with anger, betrayal etched on every feature of my face. I confronted her the moment she stepped inside my hospital room. Iris, I need to talk to you, I said, my voice sharp with anger. Oh, okay, what's up? She replied, trying to keep her voice steady, a hint of nervousness in her eyes. I know about you and Marco. Lily showed me everything. I spat out the words, my gaze fixed on her, watching her reaction. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, her face turning pale. Don't lie to me, Iris. I've seen the videos. I know you've been in my bedroom. I raised my voice, my anger getting the better of me. I didn't think you'd find out. I didn't want to hurt you, she confessed, her voice breaking, tears streaming down her face. Hurt me? Iris, you betrayed me. While I'm stuck in this hospital, you're at my home with my husband, betraying me every day, I shouted, the pain evident in my voice. I'm so sorry, Sharon. It just happened, she sobbed, her body shaking with each tear. Just happened? You made a choice, Iris. You chose to betray your friend. I was seething. Every fiber of my being wanted to lash out at her. It didn't stop there. Fueled by the hurt, by the betrayal, I called Marco, my voice shaking with anger. Marco, we need to talk, I said, my voice cold and distant. What's wrong, Sharon? He replied, a hint of concern in his voice. I know about you and Iris. I've seen the videos. Lily told me everything, I accused, the bitterness lacing every word. What? What are you talking about? He stammered, his voice betraying his guilt. Don't play dumb, Marco. I know everything. You've been cheating on me with my best friend, I yelled, my heart breaking all over again. I didn't want you to find out like this, Sharon. I never meant to hurt you. He finally confessed, his voice cracking. Hurt me? You destroyed our family, Marco. You destroyed everything we had. I cried, the tears blurring my vision. Every confession was a stab to my heart, every apology a reminder of their betrayal. My mind was made up. I was going to divorce Marco, cut all ties with Iris, and rebuild my life, for Lily, for myself. After those gut-wrenching confessions, action was needed. The betrayal demanded justice, a rectification. I immediately sought legal counsel, feeling a mix of rage and determination. Mr. Thompson, I need to file for a divorce, and I need to make sure he doesn't get a dime, I told my lawyer, my voice resolute. Sharon, I understand this is a difficult time for you. We'll do everything in our power to ensure you get what you deserve, Mr. Thompson assured me, his voice steady. Thank you. I want full custody of Lily, and I want alimony. He destroyed our family. He doesn't get to walk away unscathed, I responded, my tone icy. And what about property division? Mr. Thompson inquired, going over the legalities. I want my fair share. He can keep the rest. I just need enough to start over with Lily, I said, my mind clear on what needed to be done. The days that followed were a blur of legal battles, arguments, and tears. Marco, at times repentant, at times furious, battled every claim, every demand. But the evidence was clear, the betrayal documented for the world to see. I can't believe you're doing this, Sharon! I said I was sorry! Marco shouted during one of our confrontations. Sorry? Marco, you destroyed us! Sorry doesn't fix that! I retorted, my voice laced with pain and anger. And you? You're just going to take everything? Leave me with nothing? He accused, his face red with anger. You should have thought about that before you betrayed me with my best friend. I snapped back, refusing to back down. Eventually, the divorce was finalized. The property was divided, and I got full custody of Lily, along with alimony. It was a bitter victory, one that came with a hefty price. Iris and Marco got married not long after, starting their life on the ruins of mine. But their life was far from the idyllic start they imagined. Their relationship was tainted by constant fights, the trust non-existent. One day, I received a call that Marco had been arrested for domestic violence. Iris, once my best friend, was now a battered wife, a victim of her choices. I never thought he could do something like this, Sharon. Iris cried to me over the phone one day, her voice broken. Iris, you chose this. You chose him over our friendship, I replied coldly, feeling no sympathy for her. I know, and I regret it every day, she sobbed, her tears a stark reminder of her betrayal. Despite the pain, the betrayal, I had Lily. And with her, I had hope, love, a reason to rebuild my life. They say that after the storm comes the rainbow, and Lily was my rainbow, my beacon of hope in the darkest of times. Living in the aftermath of such a tremendous betrayal was like wandering through a field of emotional landmines. I watched from afar as the lives of Marco and Iris unfolded into a chaotic mess, their supposed bliss transforming into a nightmare. One day, as I was sipping my morning coffee, I received a call from a mutual acquaintance, filling me in on the latest drama in their turbulent life. Sharon, have you heard? Marco got arrested, said the voice on the other end, a mix of concern and gossip-filled curiosity. What? Why? I responded, trying to mask my interest. He and Iris had a huge fight. He lost it and hit her, the voice replied, almost whispering. While a part of me felt vindicated, the other part just felt numb. The unraveling of their lives was the culmination of their betrayal, their deceit. Days later, Iris called me, her voice weak, broken, the sound of a defeated soul. Sharon, I didn't know where else to turn. Marco, he's not the man I thought he was, she stammered, tears choking her words. Iris, what did you expect? You both built your happiness on someone else's pain. Did you really think it would end well? I responded, my voice cold, detached. I know we did wrong, but I never imagined he could be so violent, she cried, her sobs a symphony of regret and despair. You made your bed, Iris. Now, you have to lie in it, I replied, feeling no pity for the woman who once was my closest friend. Their lives had become a tangled web of regret, pain, and consequences. Watching them, I couldn't help but feel a sense of poetic justice. a realization that the universe had its way of balancing the scales. My focus remained on Lily and our new life together. I wanted to protect her, to shield her from the pain that had marked my life. Our bond became our sanctuary, our love the light guiding us through the darkness left by Marco and Iris's betrayal. Our conversations were filled with love, support, and healing, a stark contrast to the tumultuous relationship that was now Marco and Iris's life. "Mom, will we ever be a family again?" Lily asked one day, her innocent eyes searching mine for answers. "No, sweetheart. But we are a family, you and me. We have each other, and that's all we need," I replied, hugging her tight, feeling the strength of our bond. The unraveling of lives around us served as a constant reminder of the pain of betrayal, but also as a beacon of hope, of strength. It was a painful journey, but it was our journey, a path leading us to healing, to rediscovery, to a life filled with love and hope. The dust had settled, the storm had passed, but life had to go on. It was just me and Lily now, a team, our bond stronger than ever. We had each other, and that was our strength, our solace. Days were filled with little joys, with shared laughter and love, with building new memories. We were rebuilding, rediscovering the joy and simplicity in our little duo. One evening, as we sat at the dinner table, Lily looked at me with her deep, thoughtful eyes. "Mom, are you happy?" she asked, a touch of worry in her voice. "I have you, Lily. You make me happy every single day," I answered, my heart swelling with love for her. "But what about Dad? Do you miss him?" She probed further, her innocent eyes searching for truth. "I miss what we had, what I thought we had, but we are better off without him, without the lies and the pain," I replied, trying to reassure her. "And Iris? Do you miss her?" Lily asked, her voice softer. "I miss my friend, but the Iris who was my friend doesn't exist anymore. She chose to hurt us, and I can't forget that," I said, my voice firm but gentle. "But we're okay, just the two of us, right?" she inquired, needing the reassurance. "We're more than okay, sweetie. We have each other, and that's all we need," I affirmed, reaching out to hold her hand. Our life was a reflection of our resilience, of our love. We found joy in each other, in our shared experiences, in our journey of healing and growing. We didn't need the shadows of the past haunting us, defining us. We were a mother and a daughter, a team, a family. Days were not without their challenges, but we faced them together. Our bond was our anchor, our shelter from the storms of life. "Mom, I love you. You're the best mom in the whole wide world," Lily would say, wrapping her little arms around me. "And I love you, Lily. You're the best daughter a mom could ever wish for," I would reply, hugging her back, feeling the warmth of her love. As time rolled on, healing began to seep into the cracks that the pain had left in our lives. It was a gradual process, like the slow blooming of a flower after the storm. Life, with its myriad of colors, began to unfold anew for Lily and me. Our routine had become our comfort, our conversations our solace. We didn't look back, but forward to new days, to fresh starts. We were a little family, filled with love, with shared smiles and shared tears. One sunny afternoon, as we were strolling in the park, Lily's face lit up with a thought. "Mom, can we get a dog? You know, a fluffy one, with big eyes and a waggy tail?" Lily asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "A dog, huh? Are you ready for the responsibility, Lily? A dog needs a lot of love and care," I said, smiling at her enthusiasm. "I promise, Mom, I will feed him and walk him and love him every single day," Lily pleaded, her eyes wide with hope. "I think we can consider it. We could use some more love in our lives," I conceded, her joy infectious. Our journey was a constant evolution, a story of rediscovering happiness, of learning to love life again. We embraced the change, the chance to write a new chapter in our lives, one filled with hope and happiness. Our shared experiences had shaped us, had molded us into stronger, more resilient individuals. We had learned the value of truth, of love, of trust. "Mom, I think we should name him Buddy. What do you think?" Lily suggested, her mind already painting a picture of our future furry friend. I think Buddy sounds like a wonderful name. He will be our little companion, our little buddy, I agreed, imagining the joy a new friend would bring to our lives. It was a new beginning, a chance to rebuild, to create new memories, to find joy in the little things. We had each other, and that was our greatest strength, our greatest treasure. Our story was not one of loss, but of gain, not one of pain, but of healing. We had found redemption in each other, in our love. We were ready for the future, for the new adventures it would bring, for the new lessons it would teach. As we walked hand in hand, the sun setting in the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, I felt a sense of peace, a sense of completion. Mom, I'm glad it's just you and me. We're happy, aren't we? Lily asked, squeezing my hand. Yes, sweetie, we are. We have each other, and that's all the happiness we need, I replied, squeezing her hand back. It was a journey of redemption, of new beginnings, a journey of a mother and a daughter finding their way back to happiness, back to love. The past was behind us, the future ahead, bright and promising, like the dawn of a new day. As I lay on the cold hospital bed, the white sheets felt rough against my skin. The room was silent, except for the rhythmic beep of the heart monitor beside me. I was tired, both physically and mentally, with the weight of my condition pressing down on me. Dr. Wilson had visited earlier and explained that I had an ulcer. He told me that it was partly because I had been holding in a lot of negative emotions. I recommend you talk to someone, Mrs. Evans. Holding on to those emotions isn't good for your health, he said, adjusting his glasses. I'll think about it, doctor, I replied, nodding slowly. Soon after Dr. Wilson left, David entered. My husband of 15 years, David was a tall man with brown hair that was starting to gray at the temples. His suit was impeccable, always tailored to perfection. However, his face now showed signs of stress and impatience. Jane, David started, clearing his throat, I've been doing some thinking. I turned to look at him, waiting for him to continue. He took a deep breath. I want a divorce. I felt a pang in my chest, but not of heartbreak, more of realization. It felt like something I had been expecting for a long time. All right, I said simply. David looked taken aback. That's it? Just all right? I guess I've seen it coming, David, I admitted, though I never thought you'd tell me while I'm in a hospital bed. A nurse, Melissa, who was attending to some paperwork nearby, looked up. She was young, perhaps in her mid-20s, with bright blue eyes and blonde hair pulled into a ponytail. She gave me a concerned look. Are you okay, Mrs. Evans? David scoffed. Of course she's fine. Aren't you, Jane? I ignored him, turning to Melissa. I'll be okay. Thanks for asking. Why are you so calm about this? Melissa whispered, genuinely curious. With a small smile, I leaned in closer. I have a little secret, something that will make everything all right in the end. David, not hearing our exchange, glanced between us, looking annoyed. I'll get the papers started then, he said tersely. As he left the room, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of sadness and relief. I knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in my life. And though the circumstances weren't ideal, I felt strangely hopeful. The hospital room was quiet, with only the soft murmur of the TV in the background. I started to drift into a state of introspection, remembering simpler times. The day David and I met felt like it was just yesterday. We were introduced by mutual friends at a local coffee shop. The initial days were filled with laughter, shared interests, and many dreams for the future. Jane, have you ever thought about traveling the world? David had once asked me during one of our early dates. I've always wanted to, I replied, taking a sip of my coffee. But you know, life gets in the way. Work, responsibilities. David smiled warmly. Maybe we can do it together one day. I chuckled. That sounds like a dream. But as the years went on, things changed. David got a high-paying job, and suddenly, money became a focal point in our lives. We moved into a big house, drove expensive cars, and attended high-profile events. It was a life many dreamed of, but it felt empty to me. I bought another painting today, David said one evening, showing off a piece of artwork that cost more than what I earned in a month at the bookstore. "It's beautiful," I replied, trying to show enthusiasm. But deep inside, I missed our simpler days when happiness wasn't measured in monetary terms. The stark difference in our earnings soon became a sore point. David would often berate me for not making enough and for spending too much time at the bookstore. "Jane, can't you find a better job? Something that pays more?" he once asked. "This is what I love, David," I retorted, frustration evident in my voice. "I thought you of all people would understand." His reply was cold. "Well, love doesn't pay the bills." Health concerns started adding to our strained relationship. The constant pain in my stomach became unbearable at times. I remember one particularly bad night when I was curled up in pain. "Jane, are you okay?" David's voice was filled with annoyance rather than concern. "My stomach, it hurts so much," I managed to whisper. "You're always sick," he snapped. "Maybe if you didn't stress about that bookstore so much, you'd feel better." Even during those tough times, there was one person who stood by me, my grandmother. She was a wise old woman with a heart of gold. We shared many moments, sipping tea and talking about life. "He's not right for you," she told me during one of our conversations. I sighed. "I know, Grandma, but we've been together for so long." She looked at me with a knowing smile. "Sometimes length doesn't mean depth. Remember that." Her words stayed with me. David's decision to ask for a divorce might have been sudden for him, but for me, it was a long time coming. And as I lay in the hospital bed, clutching the letter from the notary, I felt a sense of clarity and direction for the first time in years. My grandmother had passed, leaving me $3 million. But there was a catch. I would only inherit it upon divorcing Robert. A bittersweet smile formed on my lips. Once an unwelcome condition, now it was my ticket to freedom. The next morning, I decided it was time to take charge of my life. I needed to know why David was so eager for the divorce. Was there another woman? Or was there something else he wasn't telling me? I decided to call Mark, a lawyer I had known since childhood. We had grown up together, and even though life took us on different paths, our bond remained. "Jane, long time. How are you holding up?" Mark's voice sounded genuinely concerned. "Been better, Mark," I replied, trying to sound upbeat. "But I need your help." Mark paused for a moment. "What do you need?" I hesitated. "I need to know why David wants a divorce so urgently. Can you find out?" There was a short silence. "You think he's up to something?" "I just have a gut feeling. Something's off." "All right," Mark said. "I'll hire a detective to tail him, see what he's up to." I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. "Thank you, Mark." A few days later, Mark called with news. "Jane, you were right. David's been seeing someone." My heart sank. "Who is she?" "He's been spending time with a young girl, probably in her 20s. Tall, model-like. Our detective has taken some photos." I sighed. "I need to see them." Mark arranged for me to meet with the detective later that day. The detective, a stern-looking man named Carl, showed me several pictures of David and the young woman. "That's him." Carl pointed to David in one of the photos. "And her name is Clara. She's a student, but has an interesting past." "What do you mean?" Carl hesitated. "She's been involved with a few rich men before. It seems she has a pattern." I felt a rush of anger. "So, she's using him?" Carl shrugged. "Looks like it, but there's more. We found out she's currently working for an escort service." I took a deep breath, trying to process everything. "Thank you, Carl." As I left the detective agency, a plan began to form in my mind. David wanted a divorce? Fine. But I wasn't going to let him walk away without a fight. He would regret the day he decided to betray me. The following week was a blur of hospital tests and treatments. But between the needles and medications, I had a surprise visitor. An elderly man named Mr. Graham, whom I had occasionally seen during my daily hospital walks. With white hair, a cane, and wise eyes, he seemed to be always engrossed in a book. "Hello, Jane," he greeted me with a warm smile as he walked into my room. "Hello, Mr. Graham. To what do I owe the pleasure?" "I've heard you work at a used bookstore," he said, taking a seat near my bed. Yes, I do. It's a small place, but it has its charm. He nodded appreciatively. I've always had a passion for books. Over the years, I've collected many rare editions. And, well, there's one particular book I thought you might be interested in. My curiosity was piqued. Which book? It's an old, rare copy of Pride and Prejudice. You see, my late wife loved that book. She told me stories about her family's connection to it. I was taken aback. That's one of my favorites. I've always wanted to have a rare edition. Mr. Graham smiled kindly. I thought so. Well, I'm willing to sell it to you. That's a generous offer, I said, my heart racing. But there's a problem. I recently had some financial issues. David, my husband, took all the money from our joint account. Mr. Graham frowned. I'm sorry to hear that, but for the book, we can work out a reasonable price, or even a payment plan. I smiled, touched by his kindness. Thank you, Mr. Graham. I'd like that. Our chat was interrupted by a call on my mobile. It was David. Jane, have you signed the papers yet? He demanded. Not yet, David. I told you, I'll do it after I leave the hospital. Just get it done, he said irritably before hanging up. I sighed, feeling deflated. Mr. Graham looked at me with sympathy. Relationship troubles? I nodded. He's eager to get rid of me. Mr. Graham leaned forward. You know, life has a way of bringing unexpected joys even in the midst of our struggles. Perhaps this book is a small token of that. I smiled, wiping away a tear. Thank you, Mr. Graham. You have no idea how much this means to me. As he left the room, I held the book close, feeling a strange sense of comfort. In the midst of chaos and heartbreak, this little piece of literature became a beacon of hope. After my release from the hospital, I met with Mark to strategize our next steps. The evidence against David was strong, and I was ready for confrontation. Mark handed me a file. Everything you need is here. Pictures, documents, everything. I nodded, feeling a mix of anxiety and determination. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate everything you've done. He looked at me seriously. Just remember, be strong. David might try to manipulate or guilt trip you. I'm ready, I affirmed. The confrontation was set for an upscale restaurant downtown. David had chosen the place, probably to flaunt his financial superiority. As I walked in, I saw him seated at a corner table with Clara, the young model. Her presence was unexpected, but made me more determined. David smirked as he saw me. Took you long enough. Traffic, I replied curtly. He gestured to Clara. You remember Clara, my secretary? I smiled sweetly at her. Of course, how could I forget? David, eager to get things underway, said, So, have you signed the papers? I looked at Mark, who handed over a document. David quickly scanned it, his smirk fading. What's this? He asked, sounding genuinely confused. It's a demand for a significant share of your assets, Mark replied coolly. David laughed. On what grounds? Mark slid over the pictures of David and Clara. On these grounds, infidelity. Clara looked horrified, her eyes darting between the pictures and David. David's face went red. This doesn't prove anything. Mark wasn't fazed. It's enough, and there's more. He handed over another set of photos showing Clara with different men. David looked at Clara, betrayal evident on his face. What is this, Clara? Clara stammered. I can explain. I chimed in. No need. Mark already explained to me about your profession. David looked crushed. His grand plan had backfired spectacularly. I decided it was time to deliver the final blow. Oh, and by the way, David, my grandmother passed away and left me a substantial amount, so don't worry about the dinner bill. I've got it. The look on David's face was priceless. The combination of shock, regret, and realization was almost poetic. I stood up. This is the last time you'll see me, David. Goodbye. Walking out of the restaurant, I felt a sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years. I was finally free from David's toxicity, and it was time for a fresh start. The past few weeks after the restaurant incident had been a whirlwind of changes. The whole town buzzed with news of David's fall from grace, and the whispers and pointed fingers were unavoidable whenever he made a public appearance. One afternoon, my phone rang, displaying David's number. I hadn't expected him to call ever again. Still, out of sheer curiosity, I answered. "Hello?" "Look." David's voice was rough, almost desperate. "I need to ask you something." My defenses immediately went up. "What do you want?" "It's—" He hesitated, and I could almost picture him struggling for words. "I need a loan." I raised an eyebrow. "You want money from me?" "Yes," he sighed, his voice breaking a little. "I spent a lot on Clara, on gifts, travels, everything she asked for. Plus, there are debts I've accumulated. I thought I had it under control, but now with everything falling apart, I just need some help to get back on my feet." His confession did give me a moment of satisfaction, but I remembered how he had treated me in the past, his condescending words and attitude. "You told me once that I shouldn't spend money on myself because I'm an uninteresting woman," I said coldly, recalling his exact words. "Why should I help you now?" He was silent, likely recalling that painful memory. I waited. "I'm sorry for what I said," he replied. "It was wrong, but I really need this." I took a deep breath. "David, you made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences. I won't help you." I could hear the desperation growing in his voice. "Please, just think about it. I'll do anything." "No," I responded firmly. "Goodbye, David." I hung up and took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past finally starting to lift off my shoulders. I was in control of my life now, and no one could take that away from me. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs, everyone exchanging opinions and whispers, but my focus was sharp. I looked straight ahead, bracing myself for the face-off. The mahogany doors opened, and in walked David, his hair disheveled, and his face reflecting sleepless nights. He still managed to look charming, but I saw through it. Mark, my lawyer, stood tall beside me. "Stay strong," he whispered. "Today is the day we set things right." David approached hesitantly, his eyes pleading. "Can we talk? Just for a minute?" I nodded towards Mark, signaling him to give us a moment. "Make it quick." David took a deep breath. "I'm so sorry. I realize the pain I've caused. Please, can we not do this? Can we not make it a public spectacle?" His words seemed genuine, but years of deceit had made me wary. "David, this isn't about you anymore. It's about justice." He looked defeated, but tried one more time. "Isn't there any room for forgiveness? For us to start afresh?" I stared at him coldly. "There's no us anymore. And as for forgiveness, some things can never be forgiven. You chose this path." Before he could respond, the bailiff announced the judge's arrival. Everyone took their seats. The judge, a middle-aged man with a stern face, spoke. "This court is now in session." Mark began. "Your Honor, my client has suffered emotional and financial turmoil due to Mr. David's actions. The evidence will showcase his deceit." David's attorney tried to interrupt, but Mark continued, "Your Honor, we have photographs, bank records, and messages that point towards Mr. David's consistent betrayal." The evidence was presented, one piece after another, creating an irrefutable chain of David's misdeeds. David looked shattered, realizing the gravity of the situation. "Your Honor," he began, voice shaky, "I admit my mistakes, but I beg the court and my wife for leniency." Mark countered, "Mr. David is only remorseful because he got caught. Had any of these deceitful actions not come to light, he would have continued his ways." The judge, after pondering for a while, said, "Given the overwhelming evidence, this court grants the divorce. Mrs. will receive 80% of the combined assets." David was aghast. "This is extreme." I stood up, anger evident in my voice. "Extreme? Like your affairs? Or draining our accounts? Or every lie you told?" David whispered, "Please just give me a chance." I looked at him squarely. "I gave you years, David. You destroyed that chance every time." Walking out of the courtroom, Mark congratulated me. "You did great. This chapter is closed." I nodded, determined. It's time to rebuild and move forward, without him. The sun outside shone brilliantly, signaling a new dawn, and for the first time in years, I felt truly free. The sky was a bright shade of blue, and the air was fresh, with a hint of morning dew. It had been a month since the court case, and the world seemed different to me. I was sitting in a small cafe near the beach, enjoying a cup of coffee, watching children play in the sand and families laughing together. Sarah, my longtime friend, joined me at the table, her presence always a comfort. "How does freedom feel?" she asked with a teasing smile. "It feels like breathing without any weight on my chest," I replied, taking a sip from my mug. She chuckled. "I never understood why you held on for so long." I sighed. "Neither did I, but it's in the past now. I'm just focusing on what's ahead." A small boy, around 6, ran up to our table, his sandy feet leaving prints. "Excuse me, ma'am. Can you help me build a sandcastle?" I smiled at his innocence. "Sure, why not?" As we sat building the castle, Sarah watched with a soft smile. "You know, you always had a way with kids. Have you thought about what you're going to do next?" "Actually, I have," I began, molding the sand into a tower. "I'm thinking of starting a community center for children, somewhere they can come, learn, and play." Sarah looked pleasantly surprised. "That sounds amazing, but it's going to be a lot of work." "I'm ready for it. I've been tied down for so long. It's time I did something that truly matters." The day wore on, and Sarah and I talked about everything under the sun, memories, future plans, and the latest town gossip. Later, as the sun began to set, casting a golden hue on the horizon, I stood up, stretching my legs. "You know, Sarah, it's moments like these that I miss the most. Simple, peaceful, just enjoying life." Sarah nodded. "You've come a long way." A familiar face approached our table. Mark. He looked different in casual wear, less the stern lawyer, and more like an old friend. "I hope I'm not interrupting," he said, a smile playing on his lips. "Not at all," I replied. "Have a seat." He sat down. "I was in the area and thought I'd check on you. How have you been?" "Better," I said. "Much better." Sarah, always the tease, chimed in. "You two should hang out more. You're both single, after all." Both Mark and I blushed, exchanging an awkward glance. "Well, we can always start with a coffee," Mark suggested. I laughed. "Sounds like a plan." As night fell, the three of us walked along the beach, feeling the waves touch our feet, the vastness of the ocean reminding me of the endless possibilities that lay ahead. Life was no longer about the past. It was about seizing the day, making a difference, and perhaps, just maybe, finding happiness again. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The community center became a reality, a place bustling with kids, laughter, and learning. Mark and I grew closer, our bond strengthened by mutual respect and understanding. One evening, as I stood on the balcony of my new home, looking at the vibrant colors of the setting sun, Mark came up behind me. "You've done it," he whispered. I turned to face him. "We did it. Together." He pulled me into a hug, and we stood there, looking out at the horizon, knowing that the past was behind and a new dawn awaited. And as the first stars twinkled in the early night sky, I realized that sometimes endings are just new beginnings.